Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract money effortlessly, while others spend their entire lives trying and never manage to get ahead? It's almost unfair or magical. I've personally seen individuals with degrees, talents, and discipline trapped in a cycle of frustration, living paycheck to paycheck, asking themselves, what more do I need to do? But what if I told you that the answer isn't out there? It's within you. That the true cause of poverty and abundance isn't work, the government, or the economy, but your mental programming. Sounds absurd. Well, it was precisely this discovery that transformed a young Canadian burdened by debt, earning less than $4,000 a year, into a millionaire. Financial freedom doesn't start with money. It starts with how you think about it. For a long time, I believed the problem was external. The economy, the government, bosses' luck. There was always a visible culprit to justify the lack of results. I used to think, if I had a better job, if the country were better, if I had been born into a different family. And that's how I spent years trapped in the illusion that my reality was shaped by external factors. But one day, everything started to change. I realized something simple yet profoundly unsettling. Nothing outside would change until I changed inside. My mind was the true battleground. The outer world was merely a reflection of what I carried within me. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you known exactly what to do? Save money, invest, study, change careers, and still not done it? How many times have you promised yourself things would be different, but ended up reverting to old habits? That's not laziness. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's the invisible force of your mental programming, that set of beliefs that silently governs more than 90% of your daily decisions. The problem was never knowledge. The problem is programming. You can read every finance book in the world, watch every motivational video. But if your subconscious is programmed for scarcity, you will continue to attract scarcity even when you rationally desire prosperity. I experienced this firsthand. I worked hard, put in effort, did overtime, and still my bank account remained in the red. It was like running on a treadmill, a lot of motion, but no progress. I felt frustrated, exhausted, with the sensation of being trapped in an endless cycle. And the most curious thing is that I knew people who seemed to do far less and yet prospered with ease. They didn't have more degrees than I did. They weren't more intelligent. The difference lay in how they thought, in their internal relationship with money. Money is just energy. It flows where there's space, where there's acceptance, where there's a receptive mindset. When you believe deep down that money is hard to earn, that you have to suffer to acquire it, or that it is limited, you create an energetic barrier that repels it. And no matter how hard you try, that barrier remains active until you change your belief. It's like trying to attract prosperity while your frequency is tuned into scarcity. It's impossible to pick up the sound of abundance if your inner radio is still programmed for fear. I remember the exact moment it clicked for me. I was sitting alone after an exhausting day at work, and I thought, how is it possible that I know so much and live so little of what I know? The answer hit me like a punch, because I didn't believe. I had learned theories about wealth, but deep inside the image I had of myself was that of an ordinary, limited person, unlucky, without opportunities. And as long as that was my self-image, nothing could be different. The world doesn't give us what we want. It gives us what we believe ourselves to be. The mind is like a mirror. If the internal reflection is one of lack, the exterior will show lack. And the most striking thing is that this programming forms long before you even realize it. Phrases heard in childhood like, money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are selfish, you have to sweat a lot to succeed lodge in the subconscious and transform into silent laws. They start to dictate your choices, your attitudes, your tolerance for success. You might even desire wealth, but if there's a voice inside you saying, that's not for me, guess which command your brain will obey. The truth is, no one taught you to think richly. School taught you to obey, not to create. The system trained you to seek security, not freedom. And that's why most people spend their entire lives trying to survive instead of prospering. They work hard, save, pay bills, wait for the weekend, and call that life. But true life begins when you understand that money isn't the goal. It's the consequence of who you are inside. I started observing myself. I noticed that every time I said, "I can't afford it," I wasn't describing a financial condition, but reinforcing an identity. Every time you say, "I can't," your brain understands that as an order, not a comment. It accepts it as truth and begins to act accordingly. That's why I stopped saying "I can't" and started asking, "How can I?" This small shift opened doors I didn't even know existed. The mind obeys the direction you give it. If you limit yourself, it limits itself. If you expand, it expands. Now, think about how many times you sabotaged an opportunity out of fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of appearing too ambitious. That fear is old programming trying to protect you. It convinces you that it's safer to stay small. But the price of safety is mediocrity. And the most ironic thing is that fear never disappears. You only overcome it when you decide to act despite it. Mindset change isn't about eliminating fear. It's about choosing a new direction, even when it's still present. Everything changes when you understand that money doesn't come through physical effort, but through mental vibration. When you think like a rich person, act like a rich person, and feel like a rich person, the universe begins to rearrange itself to match this new identity. It's like aligning the pieces of a puzzle. The scene changes because you've changed the reference image. True financial freedom doesn't start at work, nor with investments, nor at the bank. It begins the moment you decide to reprogram your mind to believe that you are worthy, capable, and deserving of abundance. And believe me, this is more powerful than any finance course. Because when the mind changes, everything changes. The external world is just the echo of your internal vibration. If you want to transform your financial reality, start with the mirror. Ask yourself honestly, what do I truly believe about money? The answer to that question is the exact point where your transformation begins. When I discovered the power of repetition, everything began to change. Before that, I was stuck in a cycle of trial and error. I'd read a book, feel inspired for a few days, try to apply something new, and then quickly give up. The inspiration would fade, and the old pattern would return in full force. It was then that I understood. What transforms the mind isn't the impact of an idea, it's the repetition of that idea until it becomes a part of who you are. The brain doesn't learn through the force of a revelation, but through the constancy of new programming. And that's exactly what I did. I started listening every day to Earl Nightingale's audio, especially The Strangest Secret. I'd listen in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, in the car, at home, during flights. I listened to them until I memorized every word, until I felt those phrases were already part of my own thoughts. I wasn't just listening, I was rewriting my mental code. At first it felt strange, almost artificial, as if I were trying to convince myself of something that wasn't true. But that's when I realized the secret. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and imaginary. It simply responds to what is repeated with emotion. Over time, those words began to sound natural. Phrases like, "You become what you think about most of the time," stopped being theory and became living reality within me. I started to think differently, speak differently, act differently, and the world responded. New ideas began to emerge. Opportunities I hadn't seen before became evident. It was as if my mind had changed frequency. And indeed, it had. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity generates acceptance. That's how you overcome internal resistance. Think about it. You don't believe something because it's true. You believe it because you've heard it so many times that your brain has come to accept it as truth. Since childhood, you've heard that money is hard to come by, that success is for the few, that the world is unfair. These phrases, repeated by parents, teachers, and friends, form the foundation of your current mindset. So to change your life, you need to reverse this process by repeating new truths until they replace the old ones. Have you ever noticed how a song you initially disliked, after hearing it several times, starts to sound pleasant? The mind works exactly like that. The subconscious learns through continuous exposure. It needs to hear, see, and feel new ideas repeatedly to accept them as natural. That's why I started creating a routine of conscious repetition. Every day I would read affirmations aloud. I am prosperous, abundant, and worthy of receiving large sums of money. At first it felt ridiculous. I didn't feel any truth in it, but I knew I didn't need to believe immediately. I just needed to repeat with intention. Gradually, something began to happen. The words stopped being just sound. They began to carry more weight, to stir a deep emotional response. I started to feel a quiet certainty, a faith growing within me. The very phrase that once felt distant now resonated as a declaration of my identity. It was as if my subconscious finally said, "I get it. This is who you want to be now." And from that moment on, everything changed. You need to understand that the human brain is like a computer, and your thoughts are the daily commands you input. If you keep repeating, "I can't, I don't have, this is impossible," you're programming your system to produce more scarcity. But if you repeat, "I can, I have, I deserve," you create new neural pathways that begin to work toward that reality. It's pure neuroplasticity, a scientifically proven phenomenon. Every time you think or say something, your brain creates electrical connections. Repeating them strengthens these connections until they become automatic. This is how you change your destiny, by repeating the new version of yourself until it replaces the old one. In the beginning, my financial life was a faithful reflection of my old mindset. I owed more than I earned, and each month the hole seemed to grow deeper. But something inside me said that if I persisted with the new ideas, sooner or later, reality would adjust. And that's what happened. One day, without warning, I started to notice small coincidences: a client who appeared out of nowhere, an unexpected invitation, a business opportunity. What I repeated daily began to manifest in concrete facts. I realized that repetition creates a magnetic field of attention which attracts circumstances compatible with what you insist on keeping in the focus of your mind. Many people think changing your life is about having willpower, but it isn't. Willpower is limited. It quickly runs out. True transformation comes from mental programming because it operates on autopilot. When your subconscious accepts a new idea, you no longer need to force yourself. It becomes natural. You act towards success as an inevitable consequence. This is how I stopped earning just a few dollars a month and started thinking in thousands, then in millions. I didn't wait for the money to arrive to change my mind. I changed my mind, and the money followed. Repetition creates belief, belief creates behavior, and behavior creates results. This is the cycle of transformation. You cannot break this cycle by starting at the end, trying to change the results without changing the thoughts. It's like trying to change the reflection in the mirror without changing the face that produces it. So I ask you, what are you repeating to yourself every day? What stories are you telling, consciously or unconsciously? Because whether you realize it or not, you are reprogramming yourself with every word you utter, with every thought you accept. If you want a new life, you need to tell a new story and repeat it until it becomes your truth. This is what freed me from scarcity and set me on the path to abundance. I didn't need luck. I needed consistency. Repetition made me who I am. For a good part of my life, I believed that the secret to success was working harder than everyone else. I woke up early, went to bed late, said yes to everything that came my way, and prided myself on always being busy. But inside I felt exhausted, frustrated, and empty. The harder I tried, the more it seemed like money slipped through my fingers. I was trapped by a belief that dominates most people, the idea that physical effort is the path to prosperity. But effort without mental direction is just a waste of energy. Working hard, without an abundance mindset, is like rowing against the current. You get tired, but you stay in the same place. I saw people around me who seemed to live with ease. They didn't work as many hours as I did. They weren't killing themselves to pay bills, and yet they seemed to prosper naturally. This bothered me deeply. Why are they lucky and I'm not? I wondered. Until one day the answer became clear. It wasn't luck. It was frequency. These people were mentally aligned with abundance while I was still vibrating in scarcity. They didn't feel guilty for earning, weren't afraid to lose, and so money flowed to them. I, on the other hand, lived in constant tension, worried about every single cent, trying to control the flow of life. The problem is that the world teaches us from an early age that value lies in sacrifice. We are programmed to believe that easy money is wrong, that only those who suffer to get it deserve it. How many times have you heard someone say, anyone who gets rich quickly must be doing something wrong? This idea takes root in such a way that even unconsciously you begin to associate effort with virtue and results with guilt. The mind creates a distorted equation. The more I suffer, the more I deserve. But the universe doesn't work with merit. It works with vibration. When you are vibrating at the frequency of sacrifice, what do you attract? More situations that demand sacrifice. When you vibrate in scarcity, what does the universe respond with? Scarcity. Everything you feel intensely replicates itself, and that's exactly what happened to me. I believed I needed to work harder to earn more, and the universe gave me more work. But the money didn't increase, only the fatigue. It was then that I realized, it's not about how much you do, it's about how aligned you are with what you do. Working a lot and producing little is a reflection of a misaligned mind, and the opposite is also true. When you find your inner flow, when you do something that resonates with your energy and purpose, the result multiplies with less effort. That's what happened when I started my cleaning company. I didn't understand business, I didn't have a degree, but I was mentally tuned into success. I believed I could prosper, and that belief opened paths that hard work alone would never have opened. In less than 1 year, I had earned over $100,000. I learned that the key to wealth is smart work, not incessant work. And smart work begins within the mind. It originates from clarity. Most people don't have a defined goal, just a vague desire to improve their life. But without direction, all energy is wasted. Imagine a scattered sunbeam, it warms. Now imagine the same beam concentrated through a lens. It ignites. The difference is focus. Mental focus transforms energy into results. Today I observe people's behavior and see the same pattern that once trapped me. They are always busy but rarely productive. They do 1,000 things at once, but none of them bring them closer to what they truly desire. They work to survive, not to create. And living like this is like building a castle on sand. The structure is grand, but it lacks a foundation. True power lies in acting with purpose, in aligning thought, emotion, and action in a single direction. The mind needs to lead the body, not the other way around. If the body acts without consciousness, the result is effort without progress. When the mind leads, the body follows with ease. This doesn't mean you should stop working, but that you should change the quality of your energy while working. A gardener can plant seeds with discouragement and reap little, or plant with faith and reap in abundance. The action is the same, but the vibration changes everything. I realized that when I started to act with joy, confidence, and purpose, things flowed naturally. What once seemed difficult now became simple. Doors that seemed locked opened. It was as if the universe told me, now you get it. Because the universe doesn't reward physical effort, it responds to emotional energy. And the most powerful energy you can emit is that of certainty. Certainty isn't arrogance, it's quiet conviction. It's that feeling that you already know it's going to work out, even without proof. This is the vibration of true winners. They don't work to get. They work because they already feel deserving. They don't seek success, they express it. And success inevitably finds them. You can change your life today, but you need to free yourself from the belief that effort is the only way. Effort is useful, but without direction, it becomes punishment. When your mind aligns with abundance, what once required force begins to happen with fluidity. It's not laziness, it's spiritual intelligence. Prosperity isn't a matter of sweat, it's a matter of alignment. Work less against the world and more for yourself. Financial freedom begins when you stop fighting the current and learn to flow with it. Decision is the exact point where change begins. It's not a fleeting thought, nor an inspiring idea that vanishes when the daily grind tightens its grip again. Decision is energy concentrated in direction. It's the line that separates what you dream from what you live. I learned this painfully when all I had was a job at the fire department, debts that kept me awake at night, and the feeling that I was wasting my life. It was at that point, when I found myself without direction, that I realized no one was coming to save me. If I didn't decide to change, nothing would change. And that's exactly what I did. I decided irrevocably that my life would be different. This decision didn't come with applause or guarantees. It came with fear, uncertainty, and doubts. But there was a difference. This time I didn't ask for permission. I didn't wait to have courage. I simply decided and started acting as if the new reality was already here. I remember the day I wrote on a card, "I am so happy and grateful now that I earn $25,000 a year." At that time, I was earning less than $4,000 and owed $6,000. Everything seemed inconsistent, almost ridiculous. But the decision doesn't need to seem logical. It needs to be emotionally true. I didn't write it because I already believed it. I wrote it because I wanted to believe it. I needed to commit to a new version of myself. Every day I would read that card, morning and night. I read it with emotion, with conviction, even if my rational mind screamed that it was impossible. Slowly, something began to happen. Those words stopped being just a phrase on paper and started to become an internal sensation. I began to behave like someone who was already living that reality. I walked differently, thought differently, spoke differently, and life, like a mirror, began to respond. It's curious how the external world bends before a truly firm internal decision. When you commit completely, the universe understands the message. Most people never truly decide. They say they want to change, but they keep doing the same things, repeating the same excuses. They say they want more money, but they continue to resonate with scarcity. They want a new job, but they keep complaining about the current one. They want freedom, but they live seeking approval. That's not a decision, it's a desire. Desire is fragile, it crumbles at the first sign of difficulty. Decision, on the other hand, is non-negotiable. It survives fear, exhaustion, and even criticism. When you truly decide, there is no if, no maybe. There is only how. The power of decision is so profound that science itself proves its effects. Research on neuroplasticity shows that when you make a clear, emotionally charged decision, the brain literally reorganizes its neural connections to align your behaviors with the new direction. It's as if a new pathway is opened within the mind. Each coherent choice reinforces this pathway until it becomes the new automatic pattern. Therefore, it's not the intensity of desire that changes your life. It's the daily repetition of a sustained decision until the old you no longer has space to exist. I remember the exact moment everything started to change. It was when I stopped waiting to feel ready. I decided to act even with fear. My mind said, "What if it goes wrong?" And I replied, "What if it goes right?" I decided to trust my vision more than my logic, and life rewarded that boldness. The first contract I closed for my cleaning company arose from an unlikely coincidence. A last-minute client who appeared because I had positioned myself to be found. If I had waited to feel secure, that opportunity would never have happened. Decision is the beginning of all transformation, but what sustains it is commitment. Every day, even when nothing seems to change, you must reaffirm that choice. It's an exercise in practical faith. It's looking at your current reality, the debts, the problems, the uncertainties, and continuing to affirm, "This will change because I decided." The universe responds to the coherence between what you think, feel, and do. If you think about prospering but act like someone who doubts, the result will be confusing. But if you think and act like someone who is already prosperous, the world begins to organize itself to confirm that new image. Deciding also means closing the doors of return. As long as there's an escape route, you'll never burn the bridges that tie you to the past. When I decided to leave the fire department to follow my own path, many called me irresponsible. But inside me, I knew that if I left an alternative open, I would retreat at the first obstacle. A true decision eliminates Plan B. It transforms fear into fuel. And that's exactly what most people avoid, the discomfort of committing completely. The freedom you seek is on the other side of a firm decision. But this decision isn't a motivational phrase. It's a choice sustained by daily action. Writing down what you want, visualizing, feeling as if it's already real. All of this is part of the process of aligning the mind to the new frequency. The more you reinforce the decision with emotion, the faster your subconscious accepts the new reality. And when the subconscious accepts, life changes. Today, looking back, I realized that the most powerful moment of my journey wasn't when I earned my first $1 million, nor when I published a book. The turning point happened on the day I wrote that card and decided absolutely that I would never again live a limited life. That was the seed of everything, because a true decision isn't just a choice, it's a rebirth. It redefines who you are, what you accept, and even what you attract. When you decide with your whole heart, the universe conspires. Doors open and life responds with the same intensity as your conviction. Everything begins and ends in one single instant, the instant you finally decide. I've learned throughout my life that the universe doesn't reward those who accumulate, but rather those who allow the flow. Most people spend their lives trying to hold on to everything they have, their job, their possessions, their relationships, their habits, for fear of losing them. They believe that if they let go, they'll be left with nothing. But the truth is precisely the opposite. As long as you try to hold on to everything, you block life's natural movement. The flow of abundance cannot rush towards those who live in a state of contraction. For something new to enter, you need to make space. That's what I understood almost literally one day when I arrived home and found my kitchen furniture gone. At that moment, I laughed. They told me, "You yourself said it was time to create space for the new." And in a way, they were right. Life was showing me, through a physical event, the reflection of a spiritual truth. What you hold on to out of fear is precisely what prevents you from growing. It's like trying to fill a cup that is already full. The new only arrives when the old is released. When I started consciously applying this principle, I realized how trapped I was. I was holding on to jobs that no longer made me happy, maintaining friendships based on habit, keeping objects that no longer served a purpose. All of this kept me energetically stagnant. Have you ever felt stuck in a cycle that seems to never change, even when you're making an effort? This feeling comes from a lack of space. Your mind and heart are too full for the new to manifest. How many people say, "I want a new love," but remain emotionally attached to someone from the past? Or, "I want a new job," but they live complaining about the current one without the courage to disengage. It's the same pattern. They want the new without letting go of the old. But the universe doesn't work with accumulation, it works with replacement. Letting go of the old doesn't mean impulsively throwing everything away, but learning to release what has already served its purpose. It's understanding that each phase of life has objects, people, and situations that serve that particular moment. When the purpose ends, insisting is like holding an anchor while trying to swim. I had to learn this in the most painful way possible. When I left the fire department, I felt fear, insecurity, and guilt. It was a stable job with a guaranteed salary and benefits. But deep down, I knew that life no longer represented me. The stability I had achieved was, in reality, a prison disguised as security. Making the decision to leave was frightening, but also liberating. The space that opened up allowed me to create something new, my first company. The law is simple. Emptiness attracts fullness. This is both a physical and spiritual law. When you release space, nature rushes to fill it. If you empty a drawer, new things that make more sense for that moment soon appear. The same happens with life. When you detach from a relationship that no longer contributes, new people aligned with your energy appear. When you get rid of old habits, opportunities that were blocked by your routine emerge. It all begins with a conscious choice. I allow myself to open up space. There is something very powerful in this act. When you detach, you send a clear message to the universe. I trust, and trust is the true magnet for abundance. Fear says, "What if I lose everything?" Faith responds, "What if I gain something better?" It's in this space of trust that the magic happens. That's exactly what I experienced when I decided to get rid of everything that no longer represented the person I wanted to be. I started symbolically. I donated clothes, threw out old papers, cleared my house of objects that carried memories of a phase that had already ended. And something curious happened. I started to feel lighter, more creative, more available. It's as if every empty drawer in my house was a reflection of a drawer opening within my mind. Letting go of the old is an exercise in faith. It's the act of affirming that you believe in life's abundance, that you don't need to cling out of fear of scarcity. And this is where many stumble. They say, when I have more dollars, I'll invest in myself. When I feel secure, I'll take a risk. But the paradox is that security comes after the leap, not before. You need to leap with faith before you see the net. That's what I did when I started my cleaning company. I had no experience, no capital, but I had inner space and confidence. And, incredibly enough, money started to flow in unexpected ways. The human mind fears emptiness because it associates letting go with loss. But emptiness is merely the prelude to the new. When you create space, energy begins to circulate again. And money, like all energy, needs movement. If you try to control it, hoard it out of fear, it stagnates. When you use it with purpose, gratitude, and trust, it returns multiplied. The same applies to dreams. If you hold on to a result too tightly, trying to control it, you block its own realization. To let go is to clear the way. Think about the areas of your life where there's accumulation, commitments that no longer serve you, people who drain you, objects that tie you to the past. All of this occupies space that could be used for something new. Try a simple test. Choose a drawer, a closet, a part of your home. Take everything out and ask yourself, does this represent the person I am becoming? If the answer is no, express gratitude and let it go. You'll notice how this physical act changes your energy. And when your energy shifts, the world responds. Abundance isn't about accumulating, it's about flowing. When you grasp this, you discover that losing isn't a punishment, it's a preparation. It's the universe reorganizing the stage for something better to enter. I lost many things along the way, jobs, friendships, comfort zones, and today, looking back, I realized that every loss was, in fact, a liberation in disguise. The old must die for the new to be born, and the courage to let go is what separates those who merely react to what life imposes from those who consciously create their own destiny. Therefore, if there's something in your life that weighs you down, holds you back, or exhausts you, perhaps it's time to let go. Because as long as you cling to what no longer resonates with who you are telling the universe, I am content with this. And obediently, it keeps you exactly where you are. But the moment you release it, the universe understands the message. I am ready for the new. And that's when life, with all its force, begins to move in your direction. Trust is the invisible foundation upon which all prosperity is built. It took me time to understand this. For a long time, I waited for the right moment, the perfect sign, the ideal opportunity. I thought I first needed to have more money, more security, more guarantees before I could act. But the universe doesn't work that way. It doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to certainty. I only began to change my reality when I decided to trust, even without proof, even without the perfect scenario. Trust is a silent declaration that tells the universe, I believe before I see. When you trust, things start to move. It's as if the puzzle pieces finally fall into place. I remember how many times I let opportunities slip away because I was trying to control everything. I wanted to be certain it would work out before I started. And the result? Nothing happened. Until the day I realized that control is the prison of fear disguised as prudence. People say, I'm preparing. But what they're actually doing is procrastinating. They are waiting for a risk-free future, and that future never arrives. Life rewards those who commit, not those who wait. I started practicing something simple yet transformative, acting as if it were already possible. Even if my mind doubted, I acted. When I opened my first company, I didn't know exactly how I would pay all the bills, but I behaved like someone who was already successful. I attended to each client with confidence, spoke with assurance, and saw myself as the owner of a prosperous business. And the interesting thing is that people began to treat me according to that image. The external reality merely mirrored what I decided to feel inside. This is what I call acting in faith. But faith is not a mystical word, it's a practical energy. It's a mental stance in the face of uncertainty. When you act with faith, you send a vibrational signal of trust, and the universe responds with compatible circumstances. Science is beginning to understand this. Research in psychology shows that the brain does not differentiate between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. When you visualize with emotion and believe, your body begins to react as if it were already true. And this inner state changes everything: your voice, your posture, your decisions. Trust alters your biology, and biology alters your results. It was at this point in my journey that I realized how much trust attracts abundance. And that's why I invite you now to make a small commitment with me. If up to this point something within you has resonated, if some part of you has felt that this is the moment to change, then prove it to yourself. Subscribe to this channel and click like. Not for me, but for you. Make this a symbolic act of commitment, a gesture that says, I choose to trust. Because when you take a physical action to confirm an internal decision, you create a link between thought and reality. This is the beginning of manifestation. Trust is the fuel that transforms ideas into results. Without it, fear takes the wheel and drives your life. And fear is intelligent. It will give you perfect reasons not to try. It will tell you that it's too early, that you're not ready, that you might lose what you already have, and each time you listen to it, your energy diminishes. Hesitation drains creative power. But when you trust and act, fear may still be there, but it loses command. I learned to live with fear as one listens to an old acquaintance. It speaks, but I move forward nonetheless. The difference between those who achieve and those who merely dream lies in the willingness to act amidst uncertainty. Successful people are not those without fear. They are those who have learned to act despite it. When I started public speaking, for example, I used to tremble before going on stage. I would think, who am I to talk about success? But something inside me said, if you don't trust your voice, no one else will. So I took a deep breath, stepped up, and began to speak, even with a trembling voice. And with time, fear fell silent in the face of practiced confidence. It's important to understand that trust isn't built all at once. It grows with small daily victories. It's like a muscle. Each time you act with courage, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. And little by little, the impossible begins to seem natural. I saw this happen not only with myself, but with thousands of people on whom I applied this principle. Some started with enormous debts, others with failed relationships, others simply without hope. All of them had one thing in common: a lack of self-confidence. When they learned to believe, even without visible results, their lives transformed. Trust is the foundation of creation. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what you believe you are capable of sustaining. Therefore, the first step to living abundance is to act as if it were already yours. Stop waiting for the right moment. The right moment is the moment you decide. Abundance doesn't arrive for those who doubt. It manifests for those who declare, I trust. And that is exactly what transformed everything for me. From the moment I truly began to trust in my purpose, in my ideas, in life, everything started to flow naturally. Opportunities that once seemed invisible began to appear. The right people started to emerge, and situations began to align. Not because the world changed, but because I changed the way I vibrated in front of it. I stopped asking and started allowing. What you believe determines what you create. And believing ultimately is an act of courage. It's the moment you look into the unknown and say, even without knowing what will happen, I choose to trust. And when you do that, something extraordinary begins to happen. The pieces fall into place, doors open, and life responds with the same intensity as your faith. Because trust is the language the universe understands. And when you speak that language, abundance has no choice and it comes to you. Financial freedom begins with a simple yet profound decision. I refuse to live below my potential. When that decision is born from within, something changes in your energetic field. It's as if the entire universe pauses for a moment just to reorganize everything around you. From then on, doors that once seemed locked begin to open, not because someone came to unlock them, but because your vibration no longer matches scarcity. Everything begins the instant you decide, truly, that you will never again accept a limited life. This decision is not just a pretty idea, not a motivational phrase you read and forget. It's a watershed moment between the old self and the new self. And the curious thing is that at first you might not even fully believe in it. I didn't either. I clearly remember the day I took a small card and wrote, "I am so happy and grateful to earn $25,000 a year." At that time, I was in debt. My annual earnings did not reach $4,000, and I owed more than that. As I wrote that phrase, a part of me laughed, another doubted, but something deep inside, however faint, felt a spark of possibility. My mentor believed in me more than I believed in myself, and so I did what most people avoid. I believed in his faith until mine grew strong. It was this borrowed faith that planted the seed of transformation within me. I didn't expect immediate results, but I committed to daily practice. I read the phrase every day upon waking and before sleeping. I repeated it mentally while walking, working, driving. I was slowly, little by little, rewriting the code that controlled my life. Over time, I noticed that the mind resists at first. It tries to convince you that it's useless, that you're deceiving yourself. But if you persist, the old pattern begins to break. The old identity, that of scarcity, worry, and settling for little, begins to lose its grip. And then the new you emerges, confident, calm, open to the opportunities that were always there, but which you couldn't see. The decision to change is not a fleeting moment of inspiration. It's a silent pact with your future. Many wait for the right moment to change, when they have more money, more time, more support. But the right moment never arrives. It is created the instant you decide to act, even with fear, even without proof. A true decision is one that does not depend on circumstances. It's that power born from your refusal to stay small. When you decide there's no turning back, the energy around you reorganizes. New people appear, ideas emerge, opportunities reveal themselves. You start to act differently, to think differently. It's almost as if the universe is saying, now you understand the game. Most people want to see to believe, but the secret is to believe to see. You don't need to know how everything will happen. The how is the universe's job. Your role is to decide the what and the why. Decide what you want and why it's important. The rest aligns. When I wrote that card, I had no idea how I would go from earning $4,000 to $25,000 per year. But that didn't matter. I had planted a new belief within myself. And when belief changes, action changes. And when action changes, the outcome inevitably changes. A few months later, opportunities started to surface. I was called for jobs I didn't even know existed before. People began referring me, and my confidence grew. Every small gain was proof that the decision had been heard. In time, that amount which seemed like a dream became a reality. Later, 25,000 turned into 100,000, and 100,000 became 1 million. But the most important thing wasn't the money. It was the feeling of control, of freedom, of inner certainty. When you truly decide, doubt falls silent. And it's not because everything became easy, but because you stopped hesitating. Successful people aren't those who never doubt, but those who decided that, even with doubt, they will move forward. And there is a powerful energy in someone who decides. This energy is magnetic. It attracts. It creates momentum. The first step is always internal. It's the moment you look at your life and say, enough, I deserve more, I am more. From that point, every thought, every choice, every word aligns with this new identity. You start to behave like someone who is already free, and it is precisely this behavior that creates freedom. The decision is not just mental, it is vibrational. When you decide, you change your frequency, and reality responds to this new vibration. Have you ever noticed that when you truly want something, the universe conspires in unexpected ways? This happens because the decision is a signal of clarity, and clarity is the language of creation. The universe doesn't respond to confusion, but to conviction. When you say with your whole being, "I want," and act as if it's already inevitable, the path reveals itself step by step. Financial freedom begins when you decide to stop negotiating with scarcity. When you stop saying one day and start saying now. When you understand that the only approval you need is your own. A true decision is a rupture, a cut with everything that no longer serves you. And it is in that instant that the universe, as a perfect reflection, offers you everything that resonates with the new version of who you have chosen to be. To decide is to create. And all creation begins within you. Fear is the guardian of the gate that separates who you are from who you can become. It disguises itself as logic, prudence, reason, but the truth is that fear is just old programming trying to keep you within your comfort zone. When I started to change my life, fear was my most constant companion. It was there when I left the fire department, when I decided to open my first cleaning company, when I risked everything on something that rationally made no sense. I trembled, and yet I moved forward. Because I learned that fear is not a sign to stop, but a sign that you are on the right path. The mind will always try to protect you, and it does this by keeping you in what is familiar. The problem is that what is familiar is not always what makes you happy. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "I know I could do more, but what if it goes wrong?" This "what if" is the invisible anchor that prevents you from sailing towards the life you truly want. Fear is just an illusion created by the mind to avoid the unknown. It is not a wall, it is a smoke screen. When you take a step towards it, you realize there was nothing there. I remember once early in my career when I was invited to speak in front of hundreds of people. I had never done that before. My heart raced, my hands sweated, and my head screamed to run away. Everything in me said, "You are not capable." But something inside whispered, "If you run now, you will keep running for the rest of your life." So I went on stage, even while trembling. The words flowed, the audience responded, and in that instant I realized that fear was just a test. It was asking me, "Do you really want this?" Fear is a messenger. It appears every time you're about to expand your limits. It is proof that you are moving towards growth. People think courage is not feeling fear, but courage is acting despite it. It is looking fear in the eyes and saying, "I see you, but I won't let you command me." When you understand this, fear transforms into fuel. It stops being a brake and becomes a compass. If something scares you, it's probably because it has the power to change your life. The mind resists the new because the new is uncertain, and the ego hates uncertainty. But it is precisely in this territory of the unknown that miracles happen. It is there that opportunities, connections, and ideas that can lead you to freedom reside. Think about how many opportunities you've already lost for fear of looking foolish, of being rejected, of failing. How many doors did you not open because you didn't know what was on the other side? What if the life you always wanted was precisely behind that door? The difference between those who live with fear and those who live with purpose is simple. Both feel fear, but only one decides to move forward anyway. The first time I earned real money, more than I imagined possible, was right after making a decision that terrified me. I left the security of a fixed salary and bet everything on myself. It was irrational. It seemed crazy, but within me there was a voice saying, "You were born for more." This voice is intuition, and it always speaks softer than fear, which is why you need to silence the noise of doubt to hear it. Over time, I learned that fear never completely disappears. It changes form. In the beginning, it's the fear of starting. Then, the fear of losing what you've achieved. Later, the fear of not being enough. But the more you face it, the more you realize it's just a shadow cast by the light of your desire. The greater the fear, the greater the potential of what lies behind it. Today, whenever I feel fear, I smile, because I know something big is about to happen. I've learned to walk alongside it. When fear arises, I take a deep breath, connect with my purpose, and take a step forward. Always one step, because fear only has power over those who stop. Movement dissolves it. Many people live paralyzed, waiting for courage to appear before action. But courage doesn't come first. It is born in the act of doing. It is by moving, even while trembling, that you discover you are stronger than you imagined. You need to prove yourself to yourself. Each time you face fear, you reprogram your subconscious. You are telling it, I am in command here, not you. And the more you do this, the more fear loses its grip, until it becomes merely a reminder that you are growing. Think of the great names who changed the world. All of them felt fear. Thomas Edison, Walt Disney, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs. None of them were free from fear, but they all had one thing in common. They didn't let fear decide for them. This is what separates those who create their lives from those who merely react to it. You can feel the fear, but you don't have to obey it. Freedom begins the instant you act, even without guarantees. When you trust that the universe doesn't put anything before you that you cannot bear, fear transforms into faith. Faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith in life. And it is this faith that moves mountains, that creates abundance, that completely transforms your destiny. So the next time fear knocks on your door, welcome it as a sign. It means you are on the boundary between the old and the new, between stagnation and expansion. Take the step, even if it's small, even if it's uncertain. Because the moment you cross through fear, freedom begins to follow you, and you realize that what seemed impossible was always just waiting for one thing: your courage to try. Everything in nature is in motion. The river flows, the wind changes direction, the seasons transform, the sun rises and sets. Nothing remains still, because flow is the essence of life. And with money, it is exactly the same thing. Money is energy, and energy needs to circulate. When you try to imprison it, it escapes. When you trust and let it flow, it returns multiplied. I learned this the hard way. There was a time when, for fear of losing the little I had, I clung to every penny as if the world were going to end. I was programmed for scarcity, for the idea that saving is security. But the more I held on, the more life showed me the opposite. Bills increased, unforeseen events arose, and money somehow always found a way to leave. It was then that I understood one of the most powerful laws of abundance. Money does not belong to those who possess it, but to those who make it circulate wisely. The truly rich do not accumulate out of fear. They make money move. They invest, share, donate, multiply, not because they are reckless, but because they understand the natural flow of prosperity. Money is like blood. If it stops circulating, it stagnates. And yet, most people spend their lives trying to hold on to it, believing that security means retention. But true security comes from trusting the flow. When I began to apply this law consciously, everything changed. I remember one day when I was afraid to invest in myself, an expensive course, something that seemed beyond my means. My mind screamed, if you spend this, you'll run short later. But there was something in me that said the opposite. This investment is a sign that you trust yourself. So I did it, and that simple act of faith transformed into a sequence of opportunities that multiplied the initial investment many times over. In that moment, I realized it wasn't the money that was at stake. It was my relationship with it. Most people believe that abundance comes when they earn more. But what truly changes the game is learning to relate to money fluidly, without attachment, without fear, without guilt. Observe how money responds to your emotional state. When you feel guilt when spending, it leaves you with the same energy. When you spend with joy and gratitude, it finds ways to return. It's an energetic law as precise as gravity. How many times have you met someone who seemed to have everything going for them to prosper, but they keep saying, money slips through my fingers? And that's exactly what happens. Because that is that person's vibrational programming. Money flees because they repel it with the energy of fear and scarcity. Money does not like tension. It is drawn to lightness, fluidity, and confidence. I started treating money like a cherished guest. When it arrived, I welcomed it with gratitude. When it departed, I let it go with confidence, certain it would return with company. This mindset completely transformed my reality. And the curious thing is that the more I gave, the more I received. Not just in financial value, but in ideas, connections, opportunities. When you allow money to circulate, life understands that you are ready for more and responds in equal measure. There is a principle called the law of empty space. It says that for something new to enter, you need to make space. With money, it's the same. If you cling to every coin, you block the flow. But if you learn to release consciously, you create a channel for more energy to enter. This is not an invitation to recklessness, but to faith. Faith that the universe operates in balance, that everything that leaves with good intention returns multiplied. And it is not just about material giving. Sometimes the flow manifests when you share your time, your attention, your knowledge. Because abundance is not a bank account, it is a state of mind. When you act with generosity, you tell the universe, "I trust that there's more where that came from." And the universe responds, "Yes, there is." Money is a messenger. It shows how you feel about life. If you are afraid to lose it, it is because you do not trust your own creative power. If you idolize it, it is because you believe it has more value than you do. But when you understand that money is merely an expression of your energy, you treat it as a tool, not as a master. It is at this point that freedom begins. Scarcity lives in the mind, not in the bank account. There are people with millions who live in despair and simple people who sleep in peace. What changes is the internal flow, the feeling of deservingness, the vibration of trust. Money responds to coherence. If you speak of abundance but feel fear, it does not manifest. But if you feel gratitude before receiving, it approaches naturally. I often say, money is not loyal to anyone. It is loyal to energy. It always goes where it is well treated. And being well treated is not about being hoarded. It is about being moved with purpose. When you give, invest, share, you tell the universe, "I believe that there is enough for everyone." And this belief creates a direct bridge to abundance. Therefore, every time you find yourself hesitating to give, to invest, to trust, remember, what you fear losing is precisely what the universe wants to teach you to multiply. The more you resist, the more the flow contracts. But when you let go, everything returns with greater force, like the tide that recedes only to return even greater. Abundance is not about how much you have, but about how much energy you allow to flow through you. And when you understand this, money stops being a problem and becomes a partner. It starts following you, not because you chase it, but because you vibrate at the frequency of trust, lightness, and freedom. And when money feels that it is welcome, it never leaves again. The flow of life is continuous, and the more you align with it, the more you realize that nothing is truly lost. Everything merely transforms. Money, opportunities, people, everything comes and goes according to the vibration you emit. When you understand and live this truth, abundance stops being a distant dream and becomes your natural state of being. If this message has made you reflect, if it has awakened something within you, please share this content with someone special, someone who might need to hear exactly this today. Sometimes, a simple message can completely change the course of a person's life. I am deeply grateful to have you here, for being part of this journey of expansion and consciousness. Stay with me, because in the next video we will dive even deeper into this process of inner transformation that opens all doors to prosperity. See you there.